It has stood the test of time. God's book, the Bible, still relevant in today's complex world. It is written, sharing messages of hope around the world.
Thank you for joining us on It Is Written Canada. Have you ever seen the bumper sticker that says, God accepts you the way that you are, but He loves you too much to leave you that way? Mm-hmm. It's really a question of growth. And we've been talking to presenter and Christian author Lee Venden, and he's been introducing us to an illustration of a three-legged stool. And really it's about making Christianity real and connecting with God. And those three legs of the stool, it's just an illustration of these building blocks of connecting with God through reading His Word, through prayer, and through sharing what you have received by connecting with Him through Bible study and prayer.
And having a meaningful relationship with Him, a real relationship. Yeah.
So, Lee, when you talk about this, isn't it the question of growth? Like, how do we continue to go and hit the target and not feel like such a failure at times?
Well, yeah, when you say, is it a question of growth, that's what the devil would like to have us think. He puts it into our head that we're not growing rapidly enough. We're not overcoming, we're not becoming more like Jesus. And he says, you know, you sure messed up. And it puts me in mind, growth. It puts me in mind of Jesus in John 15. He said, I am the vine, you're the branches. If you abide in me, and I abide in you, you will bear much fruit. But he doesn't talk to us about bearing fruit, he talks to us about abiding. And that's kind of like saying, if you would spend time with me daily, that would be the abiding, you will bear much fruit. And so in other words, the focus is not on my performance or my overcoming or my becoming more like Jesus. The focus is on just Jesus. Just getting to know Jesus. And he's saying that's what's going to make the difference. And it's kind of like we got this broom here that we have on the set, and we would like to just try and demonstrate that, Mike. So if I can give you the broom, if you would be kind enough to take an open palm and put one end of the broom, put the end of the broom there, and then I want you to try and balance the broom, but only look down at your hand. Only look down. Don't hit your wife! Okay. All right, let's try it again. This time use one finger, not an open palm, and look at the top of the broom instead and see how it works. Wow.
Whoa.
There you go.
It works.
There you go.
So if I keep looking up, I can do it.
That's exactly the point. I think that's what Jesus is trying to say right here. He's like, keep looking at me, and I'll produce fruit in your life. If I don't see that fruit being produced, if I feel like I flopped and failed, oh man, then the devil's whispering, he's saying, you blew it. In fact, you know what? You just soiled your spiritual diaper and you stink. Certainly you aren't planning to go sit with Jesus right now smelling like that.
He wants us to feel guilty, right?
So maybe it's a question of not being sincere enough.
That's what some people would suggest. They say if you were more sincere, you wouldn't keep flopping and failing. And I remember a guy coming to me one time, and he said, Pastor, would you pray for me? And I said, what would you like me to pray for? He said, I'd like you to pray that I could be more sincere about following Jesus and living His way. I said, well, why do you think that's the problem? And he said, well, let me just level with you. I'll tell you the truth. I'm a married man. I have a beautiful wife and 3 children. But I have been so unfaithful to her and cheated on her so many times, I couldn't even count them or tell you the names of all the people that I've messed with. In fact, right now, I'm living with a girl who's not even my wife, and my wife hasn't divorced me yet. I just feel like if I could be more sincere about living His way, that could make all the difference. He said, recently I decided to go back to church, the church my wife still goes to and I used to attend. And I got out of the car in the parking lot and a deacon came out. And he said, what are you doing here? I said, I thought I'd come to church. He said, not this church. We know what you're doing. We know how you're living. We know you're shacking up with that girl. And for you to come into this church with your wife who's wounded and broken over what you're doing, it's like rubbing salt in her wound. And we don't want her to have that salt rubbed in her wound. So when you're sincere about following Jesus and living His way, you can come here, but until then, you go somewhere else. And then this guy starts crying. My initial thought was he was going to dump on that deacon for being so, but no, he actually said, I think he must be right. He said, if I was sincere enough about following Jesus and living His way, I can't imagine why I'd keep doing this. So would you please, he's weeping, would you please pray that I could be more sincere? I said, well, I'll pray for you, but before I do, I want to ask you a question. If someone asked you, what is a Christian, how would you describe that? How would you answer that question? He said, I would say a Christian is somebody who's doing the best they can to stay out of trouble and trying hard to do what's right. I said, that explains your problem. He said, what do you mean? I said, well, you don't know what a Christian is. He says, what? I said, Christianity is not about what you do. It's about who you know, and then who you know changes what you do. He said, I don't understand. I said, well, what's the root word of Christian? He said, Christ. I said, so Christianity is about becoming friends with Christ.
Yes.
He said, so how do you become friends with Christ? And of course, you guys would probably imagine, I talked to him about the three-legged stool, you know? And I told him, if you spend some time in God's Word for the purpose of meeting Jesus, I'd suggest starting with the Gospel of John. If you talk to him in prayer as you would with a friend, if you will spill over to other people about how cool he is as he starts to become real for you, that's how you get to know Christ. He said, wow. He says, let me see if I get this right. Are you telling me I should quit trying to overcome my besetting faults and failures and sins? I should quit worrying about those. And instead, I should start focusing on getting to know Jesus as a friend. And then if I do that, he'll take care of the faults and failures? I said, oh, yeah, bingo. Move to the head of the class. You just got it. He goes, wow, I've never heard that in my whole life. He says, my entire life I've been trying to be good by not being bad. I've been trying to do what Jesus would do, and I haven't been able to do it. And I've just got bruises and bumps and butted my head up against the wall trying to do it. He says, it's been mission impossible. He says, getting to know Jesus, though, that sounds like that could be mission possible.